a little bit about myself, just so you'll know what in the world, who you're dealing with a little bit. I got my bachelor's degree in nursing from Purdue University a long time ago, and then went on and got my master's degree from Vanderbilt in nursing. And for the first, I don't know, 10 years or so approximately, I worked in intensive care in the hospital. And it was interesting, but I decided I wanted to get into clinical research. So I've been in clinical research, either on the floor with patients in clinical research studies, or I've been involved in monitoring and eventually in management of clinical trials and mostly oncology after the 10 years in ICU. I have a great, I think, knowledge base of clinical trials, how they work, what doesn't work, the positive things. And I can tell you a lot of negative things about clinical trials, which I think a lot of you have experienced. I also then, after a while, I decided I was going to get back into, didn't get a lot of patient contact because of the clinical trial situation. So I got back in, went to Cancer Commons. I don't know if you've heard of Cancer Commons or not. It's located in California, and mostly worked with DIPG patients for a couple of years. During that time, that was right when the ONC201 kind of just hit the market or hit the clinical trial scene. And I really worked with about 130 or more patients that just were just wanted on clinical trials, which were really, really difficult to do. So I helped navigate that. I couldn't get a lot of them on the trial because at that time they wouldn't allow patients that had progressive disease. They had to be had their initial radiation treatment, but they could not have progressive disease. So I met Lisa during that time with Jace, because he had his initial radiation and had not progressed. And I worked along with a colleague. We saw Jace, we met Lisa. We didn't meet her in person, but you don't have to meet Lisa in person, I think, to know how she operates, and you fall in love with her. And saw pictures of Jace, and my colleague and I said, we just cannot, ONC201 was kind of the only way to go, and we could not allow this 19, 20-year-old, he had his whole life to live. And so we reached out to the drug company. We had a couple of connections, and just wouldn't take no. And we said, could you make an exception? So an exception was made, and Jace got on ONC201. And Lisa can tell you that, but it helped for many months. So we know the ins and outs of clinical trials and that sort of thing. And then Lisa said, oh, you got to come start this program. And I said, no. But I'm really glad that I did. It's been a really good decision. I have a great husband and a great two grown children that are great, but next to that, this is one of the best things I've ever done in my life. And it's because we can help people that need so much help that I think our systems have failed us in many ways. And we can hopefully help navigate some of those failures into successes. So that's what our primary purpose is. We work again with clinical trial placement. We can work from people that are newly diagnosed to any part of the journey, as we call it. I don't know if I like the word journey, but I don't know of a better word to call it. So progressive disease, and then hopefully compassionate use sometimes, which is not, which is kind of a misnomer, because sometimes you can't get into compassionate use trials either. But we work really hard trying to find a way to help you. We try to work with you if you're not in a center that has a lot of DIPG patients. We try to get you into somebody who sees quite a few of these patients a year, since it's so rare. If you get into a place where it's kind of rare, and we try to help you with physician relationships. We also are just around to listen. So and support you and try to troubleshoot and problem solve. So that's basically what our program does. I'm sure I left something out, but I'll. It's a good place to be able to have an organization that really is focused on trying to help you in a very horrific, terrible situation. So we decided, I guess it was late last year, that we would start hiring 2 nurses. We wanted people with medical backgrounds, and just to let you know, we had almost 400 people apply in 11 days for this position, and it was interesting reading that many resumes, and I think I did find the cream of the crop. And so I want to introduce you to first to Lauren Karajas. She can tell you a little bit about herself, and after Lauren is Ashley Rogers. And so Lauren, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Leslie. And thank you, Mark, and everyone at Chad Tough. It's been an amazing opportunity so far. And my drive is just to help everyone the best that we can. But my name is Lauren Karajas. I earned a bachelor's in science at Ball State University up in Muncie, Indiana. I grew up in Central Indiana. From an early age, I knew I wanted to be a nurse. I've been a pediatric oncology nurse for almost 8 years now. I worked at Riley Children's Hospital on the bone marrow stem cell transplant floor, and most recently at Peyton Manning Children's Hospital on the inpatient hematology and oncology unit. I've had extensive hands-on clinical experience with working with young adults and children with a range of different cancers, and specifically brain cancers. Although I loved the bedside due to recent changes in staffing, I was not able to fulfill the desire that I wanted to give the time to the families that deserve it the most. So I'm thankful I found this very specific position where I can carry out my passion and help families like you through the most difficult time of your life. You guys do not deserve to go through this alone. So I'm honored to be part of this organization, and I'm here to give it all the time, care, and attention that it deserves. So thanks for having us tonight.
All right, Ashley.
Hello. So I am Ashley Rogers. I am a pediatric nurse practitioner. I live in North Alabama, and I have worked in pediatrics for 10 years now. I received my bachelor's in nursing from the University of Alabama in Huntsville, and I got my master's in pediatric nursing from the University of South Alabama. I've worked in general pediatrics, in the pediatric intensive care unit, and then most recently I was at the St. Jude affiliate clinic in Huntsville, where I spent 6 years as a nurse and later as a nurse practitioner. My passion for pediatric nursing in the ICU and in oncology specifically has always been to help someone who is going through the worst time of their life. I want to do everything in my power.
Oops, you're on.
It muted me, didn't it?
It did.
So I want to do everything in my power to make your life the slightest bit easier. So joining Chad Tough as a nurse navigator has given me the opportunity to do that. I could not be more thankful to join such a wonderful team. I get to focus all of my time and efforts into living out my passion, helping families navigate this horrific disease. So I hope I can do that.
Leslie, can I jump in?
Yes.
So
Please
my name is Ann Friedholm. I'm the CEO of Chad Tough Defeat the IPG Foundation. And I just wanted to just jump in real quick, and then we can open the floor to questions. But who am I and why the heck am I involved in all of this? So our foundation has 2 founding families. You've met Mark. His wife Jenny is the Mosier side, and then we have the Carr side, which is Tammy and Jason Carr. And I was friends with them before Chad got sick. So I have a business background. I have 4 children. I was a stay-at-home mom at the time. I'd sort of taken a few years off from my career in brand management. And when this all evolved, just little by little, I kept getting more and more involved, and kept having a hard time saying no. I have not been in your shoes, and I very much understand that I don't know what you're going through. But I've walked alongside not only the Carrs, but other families. And what one of our nurses said is what we believe is that nobody should have to go through this alone. And we are very honored to bring Jace's vision to life. And so this program is completely free, no obligation. It's there for you, however it can be helpful to you. It can be there at any time. It's not a matter of only at the beginning, it could be at any time that you're looking for assistance. And we talk about 3 main things that we hope to be able to do for you. We can educate. We can answer questions. Don't understand what the heck the doctor said. Can you please help me understand this? We can do the education side. We can connect. So like Leslie said, we want to make sure that everybody has the access to the experts and has all the information that you need to make the most informed decisions that you possibly can. And we're going to do everything we can to connect you to the right people, to make sure you have all of the expertise. And the last piece is support. Even if it's just a matter of you just need to talk to somebody, you just need to sit for an hour and process. Our nurses are here for you. So I just wanted to kind of wrap all of that up. We are more than happy to stay on and answer whatever questions. The best thing to do if you'd like to connect with our nurses, and the way that it works is you go to the website, mydipgnavigator.org. You'll see buttons all over the place that say get support now, get one-on-one help now. It'll take you to a very short form. We just need a little tiny bit of information, and then you'll hear from one of our nurses within 24 hours. You'll do an introductory call, and then you're going to be connected to one nurse as your primary person. So this is somebody that is going to walk right alongside you for as long as you would like. And that's okay if it's one phone call. It's okay if it's 1 month. It's okay if it's 2 years. It is whatever it is that you need. That's what we want to be able to provide. So with that, really appreciate the chance for us to be on this call tonight, but we're happy to answer any questions.
I just wanted to jump in and real quick and thank Chad Tuff for, first of all, just embracing that vision, but more importantly, making it more beautiful, more operable, more immediate than anything that I think Jace or I could ever have envisioned. I've had the pleasure to work with Leslie and Ashley and Lauren now since, well, Leslie for almost a year, as we've worked on what that feels like in talking with patients, families, and then with Lauren and Ashley for a few months. And I'm always so impressed, you guys, if something comes up, like somebody called in once and we're talking to them and they were doing the 34 gray, the 10-day radiation. And so the question was like, could they get on a trial if they had the 34 gray versus like the 6-week, right? The 56. And these guys just jumped on all the research they could, ready to make the argument if they had to, that it would be just as effective because that's what the research was showing, so that no one would get left out of a trial while maybe some other centers were catching up on that. And we were pleased to report that immediately the doctors were getting back to us saying, on all the PNOC trials, it's fine. On this one, it's fine. It's this one, I'm fine. So I just want to reiterate, like, they are out in front of you advocating constantly so you can be with your kids, and asking all the questions that I would think to ask and much more. And the centers are noting how important they are and how many people that they're able to talk to and work with. And so they're updating us. I think April from one of the new trials is on tonight, ready to say like, hey, we're opening for recruiting and the sonodynamic therapy. So I just want to encourage you to keep telling new patients, like, this is a very informed, my DIPG navigator is very informed. You've got nurses, you've got centers that believe in what they're doing. They're providing the most up-to-date information. We now have centers telling us like, hey, we're going to have to pause for a few days. And so the nurses are navigating like, oh, this one might be on pause, call this one right away. They're doing everything you would want them to do if you were their patient.
Hi.
Hi,
Hello.
how are you?
And
Is that London?
Yes, she wanted to say hi to everybody.
It's so good
Hi,
to
London.
see you. Are you
She
out of
did.
school now?
yeah,
Yeah, almost summer. Well, I'm thinking about all the summer fun you're gonna have. Next year's 8th grade.
yeah.
All right. Gotta have all the fun you can before 8th grade. You've sure been working hard this year.
I'm ready.
Keep taking that UNC 201, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
Linda lives in Nebraska, you guys.
Yeah, she wanted to say hi, and she just made it past her year since diagnosis. So
Well, there is no stopping her. She's coming to
know.
Kansas in July.
yeah, she's already been talking all about it. So she's excited.
That's
She has
great.
lots of plans so far. So we go to Michigan June 8th, and I got a hold of the Cleveland Zoo, and I'm trying to see if they'll set up a little thing for her because they have koalas there. So we're trying to see if we can get like a special access or something to the koalas. So hopefully that happens.
Mm.
Hey, Jessica, the Toledo Zoo is also a very major zoo that's much closer to Michigan that
Oh, really?
might be able to help.
Do they have koalas though?
There's a good chance they do. I can't promise it. It's been a while since I've taken my kids there, but there's a good chance. It's a pretty extensive zoo.
Yeah, see, we have Omaha Zoo, and it's a pretty good zoo, but they don't have koalas there. And she's like been obsessed with koalas her whole life, so she really wants to pet a koala. So
I'm going to check right now for you.
Would one of the nurses just feel comfortable kind of walking us through, what you would do if you were a new patient and for the most efficient way to connect with you guys? If you were a new patient family and just, trying to get the best information and give you the best information as easily as possible.
So the first thing you do is fill out the, I call it admission form or the registration form, and it just asks for your first, it's very brief. First name, last name, phone number, email, the name of your child, and your state, so we'll know what time zone you're in. And the next thing that happens is we send out a short email saying, we got your registration, we want to connect with you. Could you please let us know a couple of dates and times, and we will make it work. And once you reply to that, then we set up the time. And right now, all three of us are talking to everyone, but that soon I think is not going to be feasible because we've got to pretty good increase in patient load now, but we call you back. Usually it's a call and we call back, and usually that call lasts about an hour. I would say most of them do, or a little longer. We want to hear your story. We want to know where you're located, what treatment you may or may not have tried. If you're new, when you're starting your radiation, and thoughts about what might happen, what you think should happen after the radiation is complete. We try to always, a lot of folks come in and they come from very small hospitals, and the information is not as accurate, I think, from smaller hospitals, and we try to help them, to see if they're willing to travel to the closest larger center that sees more patients. We answer questions. We provide them with the best practices document. We follow up and let them know. Trying to think what else in the beginning, and then we keep either we like to communicate what is the best way to communicate with you. Some people don't want to call and talk to us, but they text a lot. We have a lot of patients and families that text us, and that's great. Sometimes it's daily, sometimes it's a couple times a week. And then they call if something urgent comes up. We answer, we respond pretty much. There's always someone on call, but if the intake nurse is me, let's say, and you text me on the weekend with a question or a thought, then I'm going to text you right back, or we'll talk if needed. We develop the relationship, and it continues again, as Ann said, for as long, short or as long a period of time as you need. After that, the radiation usually occurs, so we check in less frequently, but usually at least once a week, just to see how it's going. Is there any questions? Can we help in any way? Is there something we can do? Usually there are questions, and we do, like you said, Lisa, do the research. We don't just say, and we do not give medical advice, by the way, but we do research and provide information so that the patient and family can have the information to make the best decision that fits the family. We usually have, like if it's clinical trials, we provide a list of several clinical trials. If you go to clinicaltrials.gov, there would be, like 100 clinical trials. We do not provide you with that list. We listen to what you say and what you think your needs are, and then provide you with a short list of where things are and what to do. I don't know if Ashley, you and Lauren want to hop in and say something.
I'm on a very important meeting. What do you want?
Oh, I wanted you to play a game with me.
I know, but I'm on this important meeting. It's only 30 minutes.
I think you covered everything well. I think you covered everything.
If a patient is in progression, it's a little different. We talk a lot initially about biopsies. If you're in a center that has a lot of patients with DIPG, then usually the biopsy is most often done. But sometimes it's not in the smaller centers, and so we talk about biopsies and the benefits and the risk, and just educate about biopsies and talk about how biopsies generally are needed once you have progression, if you have progression. The clinical trials that are available for progression, when people call us, then we give, we talk about we list, there's 5 or 6 that are pretty I don't know if popular is the right word, that are used more often, and we put the pros and cons and try to let them know where they're located. We also talk about, it's a lot of education about palliative care, especially after progression or during progression, because things get pretty tough. And I think there's a lot of misinformation about palliative care for children, because it's kind of, you don't want to hear that word, but palliative care I think helps a lot when things get really, really tough. They are very, very helpful. You can have somebody come help you at home sometimes. So we do a lot of education, and there's lots of different ways to jump in at different times. I don't know if there's
just being there for you guys, like a parent, if they need to text us or just bounce ideas off of us, just to have someone who knows slightly what's going on just to talk to. That's really what we try to help with as well.
I think
Yes.
sometimes you guys are really good at even addressing, like, maybe something is available in a different area for palliative care, or maybe there's a question about like a supplement. You're not going to give them advice about a supplement, but you might say, these are some questions I would be talking to your provider about to know how that might work with your study. So just raising issues that we might not think to raise if we haven't been in the medical community as a profession.
Lisa has a question. Lisa Slunger.
Yeah. Let me take it down. Sorry, I think my husband's walking and we've had hey, hold on a second. So my son passed away about 5.5 years ago, and my son was treated at Lurie's, and we have a parent group that they pair you up with somebody. And I just want to find out, because I think this is actually a much better idea because everybody's, then who they paired me up with was somebody who else lost their child. And, at the time, I don't, like, you think you want to talk to somebody, but you don't, but I think it's a much better idea. Are you guys opening up to the hospital, like Lurie's, to let them know you guys are available?
Yes, and Dr. Plant has reached out recently, letting us know about a new clinical trial. And
I listened to her thing a couple weeks ago, but I just want to make sure.
So they are very much aware and very open. So Lurie is a great hospital and has great care.
Yeah, I mean, we were with Stu Goldman, who's in Phoenix, but and our fellow now isn't attending there, Alicia Lenzen. So, but I just want to make sure that they're aware of this, because as I said, they paired me up with another family, and which is nice too, but it wasn't the right situation at the time. I thought I could have.
Sorry, go ahead, Lisa. You finished. Go ahead.
Luckily, Joshua's dad, who I'm divorced from, but that was way before he ever got sick. He's a doctor, so he was able to get us contacts, but there's many people in the world who can't, we talk to people all over the world, or he did, and he was able to do that. But for us, we were okay, but I know other people are not in that same boat.
Yeah.
So, but thank you guys for doing this. I appreciate it.
So I was going to say, one, we would love your help and anyone's help to make sure their local hospital and the doctors that they have relationships and know about this program. And so, sending it along to the doctors at Lurie's and the people you still know, that would be, I think, a great help for the program.
Okay.
And then separately, I think it's, when we looked at this, it was kind of before this program, everyone was kind of getting support and talking to other families. And I think there is an important role for that, but I think there's also a role for this of having a medical professional to help, because there are some questions, and even now we still see that there's some questions that, are maybe better asked and better discussions to have with another family that it's either going through it now or going, or has been through that. But that's usually not like, what's the best clinical trial and how do I get enrolled in that? But before, we were kind of asking those people those sorts of questions because there was no one else to help. And so, I think this isn't to like replace the support you get from other families. It's that the other families can provide emotional support. They can provide a lot of just sort of, somebody to be there that you can talk about other issues and going through that and dealing with siblings and their families, but at the same time, kind of having somebody else you can rely on for the kind of medical help.
Well, I appreciate you guys doing all this. So, I mean, I have 2 kids who are pre-med, and both of them are thinking about going into oncology right now. They're both in college. So my kids are actually in touch with, sorry, that's my dog. To make everybody smile. So I mean, my kids are in touch, because they're trying to figure out if this is the right route for them. But I don't want to get them in touch with families. But I just want to make sure if they start talking to them that, oh, did you guys have this? Because I'm sure at any point, once my kids get over to Lurie,
Yeah.
anything will be brought up. So, okay, thank you.
One of the things I want to say is that we do not know everything, even though, and today, for instance, we told a family, we had a good long conversation, but we said we need to get back with you on that, and that I think that goes back to what Lisa said. But we get back with you pretty quickly. It's not like a week later. We probably within 24 hours, and we did a little research after the call, and maybe a lot of research after the call, but we want to get you answers quickly because I think it's needed. And so we do.
So I know when we were going through this, there are some things in the early days, I couldn't even verbalize, but they were things that scared me because I didn't know anything about brain tumors or cancer. And so like, what if Jace had a seizure, or, what is hydrocephalus and what would I need to do? And so one of the things I think my DIPG Navigator has done really well is try to put as much of that information also just online where you can read about it as a parent would want to read about it, not like clinicaltrials.gov makes you read about it. And, I think that was intentional because we thought sometimes those thoughts come up in the middle of the night, and sometimes you're, right beside your child when you wanted to look at some of those things. And so that's intentional to have that there. And as it builds out, you'll probably see more in videos that will accompany those from different doctors and different topics. And if I understand correctly, if someone's native language is Spanish, we want to find a person that can interpret for us. And there's some parents that have offered to do that. So this is a work in progress. They could have worked on it probably another 3 years and maybe it would have been better, but that's 3 years of kids that wouldn't have had the benefit, right? And just working with parents is going to give even better ideas. So I wanted to say one other thing that I think is so important. As we were designing it, what was really important to Mark and I in those very first conversations, and then they took the ball and ran with it. They've done such an amazing job, but it was really important that no one felt like they owed the navigators anything, that no one felt like to get into a trial, they had to be a fundraiser or they had to put their kids out there because it's such a shock, right? To be diagnosed and, you're not sure you even want to tell your friends, let alone everyone. So please make sure that message is loud and clear. Somebody had to employ nurses. They had to work for somebody. And Chad Tuff said, we'll take that first investment. We'll take that big one. But then they also said, everybody can come along and be part of this. And even if you don't help fund it, no big deal. Put it on your Facebook site, put it on your website. Let's just talk about it. So when you think DIPG, when you get that diagnosis, in addition to images and faces, you're going to see this right off the bat. And it'll just move up the list in Google Analytics. It's for the whole community. And there's not any purpose that has anything to do with raising funds tied to this. You guys don't even share the names back and forth, right? They're completely separate. And I think sometimes we're so used to misinformation in Facebook. And I have always worried that this would be something that someone would like start a rumor about. I can assure you from day one, that has been so important to this group. And I'd like everyone to know that.
Thank you, Lisa. That is important. The first piece I want to go back to on the Spanish. If for anybody on the call, or if you know of anyone that you're more comfortable in that language, there's a little button at the bottom right-hand side of the website that you can change the language to Spanish. And we do have somebody available to hop on calls to help translate. That's available now. So just to know that. And then the other piece is, yes, you are absolutely correct. There is no ability to donate to this program through the website. And if a family says, well, I'd like to help, the reaction you're going to get from us is your main priority should be your child right now. And we'll figure all the rest of that out some other day.
Yeah, and if I just comment on the other thing Lisa said, it is very much a work in progress, and we had a lot of input from a lot of doctors and families that have been through it to set it up, but there's not going to be anybody who in a better position to tell us what's working and what's not and what we could do better than the families who are going through it. So we definitely want input, and we're committed to making this the best program it is, and we've now been public less than a week, almost a week. And so I think we probably will change things going forward, and your input will be very valuable in that process.
And you may love everything about what we do or don't do for you, but if you have a suggestion, we welcome that suggestion. That's for sure. You can still be very happy and have a suggestion. You may be unhappy and have a suggestion too. I hope that's not true, but we very much welcome suggestions.
I see Andrea's on, and Andrea was part of our testing program and says she would be very willing to share her experience. Andrea, do you want to comment on that?
Sure. Hi, guys. Hi, Leslie.
Hello.
Ashley, I saw you on there too. I just wanted to share kind of our experience, and Lisa kindly kind of got me in touch with Leslie, who I found out actually lives like 10 minutes away from me in real life. So that's very exciting. But my experience has been really fantastic, and we're really supported by our medical teams. We have a whole bunch of different medical teams that we find great support with, but having someone else to talk to just to kind of clear your head and talk things out loud with someone who kind of has an understanding of what's going on. You don't have to kind of reinvent the wheel every time you have these discussions like we do sometimes with our family or close friends, and you feel like, I don't know, I always used to feel very burned out that I was telling the same story over and over and over again. And it's emotionally really, really challenging. But every time I've talked to Leslie and Ashley and Lauren, like they've been just really encouraging. And we had to take a little detour. Here's another great thing about the program. You know, if you don't need to talk to them for a while, that's okay. Like nobody's hounding you. You don't feel like you have to owe them a conversation or a check-in or a hello or anything like that, because we had to take a little detour when Yelena got sick again and was having surgery and re-irradiation, and just life got crazy. And I could barely respond to texts or emails. And, but just knowing that they were there, and some questions I had, had nothing to do with medical, but I needed help with social work stuff that it seems to always be challenging. And they were like, you know what? We don't have those answers, but like, at least let us talk to the people in your community and see what we can do for you. Because I was so overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed with trial information about getting information out to Seattle. And I couldn't even get halfway through the first page. And I sent it to Leslie and I was like, I just can't even look at this right now. And she was like, that's fine. You don't have to. You don't have to. Like, we will look at this for you, and we will start the process, and we will start talking to people. And that was amazing, because that was something that I didn't have to worry about, because I just, at the time, I couldn't emotionally do it. And that's where the support has been really amazing, I think, is when you're at the very, very end of your rope, which is like every single day in this situation. And you've got someone who says, don't worry about it. You don't have to look at it. You don't have to call me back. You don't have to do the research. I'm going to help you through this. And for that, you know, for our family, we're incredibly grateful. Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Andrea. That was very nice.
I've also noticed they're really great if your doctor is maybe recommending like one path. I can remember a time when our doctor, who was fine in St. Louis, just was sure that Jace's MRI was showing progression. And Leslie and I talked, and she said, you know, so many times it can really be pseudo progression. And if you have another doctor look at it, they might have a different opinion. It's really good to get a few opinions, especially at centers where they look at these a lot. And that's the experience that they're going to have, because they're going to be dealing with centers across the country every single day. And as we go through it, we only have to know that step once. But we wish we knew everything we knew later on, right? When we face that step. And I think that they'll be a fabulous asset in that regard. We might just
What if
speak.
you have a child that is in a clinical trial already? Can we recommend them to the Navigator, and how does that work?
Yes, the answer to that, the quick answer is yes. One of the things I'm trying to eloquently speak to families about is if the clinical trial is working, great, but what are your thoughts about what might happen down the road? I think it's always good to have a backup plan, because if you're in a clinical trial and suddenly it stops working, then it takes, I would say, unfortunately, it takes a good month or so to get into a clinical trial. If you said today, I want to get in a clinical trial and life went wonderfully well and you were able to do it, it would still take a good month. So you kind of have to have, to me, a backup plan. And I think it's always good to have that and we can talk to you about, a backup plan. Several, tell you different options for backup.
I think you're also pretty aware with the sequencing of trials too, right? So one thing, as many of you know that have been a little further down the road, is you want to know, if I do this trial, can I still do this trial? Or if I'm having to wait for this trial, is there a different trial I can get into? Because you might really want something and there just might not be a spot that opens while your child's eligible. So, we might talk about, like, Children's National is opening their sonodynamic therapy. Well, we know you can do that and still go into about every trial except the DIPG vaccine, right? But if you do one CAR T-cell trial, you can't switch to another CAR T-cell trial. So all of those eligibility things that would take each parent, frankly, hours to figure out, which we all did before this, these guys are kind of have their checklists figured out.
For the most part.
For the most part.
So are you willing to talk to their primary care, doctors too, about if they are on a clinical trial, what the next step would look like, and kind of getting their input and kind of opening those doors too, or how does that work?
The answer to that, I think, is no. We do not talk to the physicians, or at least we haven't yet. We talk to the parents or the patient and give them the information, the questions to ask their physician. For one thing, there's a HIPAA thing going on, and it'd be hard for the doctor, I think, to speak with us about that patient without violating HIPAA. So we arm the family with information and questions to ask so that they can work with their physician.
And after the physician, you give the recommendations, they talk to their physician, they have other questions, and they can come back to you and say, this is
Right.
what our doctor said, XYZ, and then you kind of help them muddle through all of that.
Right, and sometimes communication is difficult with different physicians. And I laugh. And sometimes we, for instance, I think recently we provided the family with information about a clinical trial that they were not able to get into, and they reached out to the clinical trial site and got an answer that gave them more peace as to why they couldn't get in the trial. So I'm sure the physician, that patient's physician, that family's physician told them this, but sometimes even I, with a clear mind, sometimes get told things and I have to be told again. So sometimes it's just different methods of communication. And the site was able to say, oh yes, here's the reason why you did not, why you didn't qualify. And they had a little bit more peace about the reasoning why.
Well, that's great. And I think sometimes even just having someone, when you don't have that medical background, bringing it down to layman's terms can really help a family also. So that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you want to speak, Leslie, just a little bit, like if somebody is looking at trials and they're worried about finances, how they're going to travel to the trials and so forth, what your response tends to be there. And then I think the other thing is, if a family's facing end of life decisions, I know sometimes, tumor donation or tissue donation comes up. How do you handle things that maybe aren't like quite within, right where you're working now?
So we do have a list, and I think it's on our website of resources, because we don't, provide financial assistance for travel and lodging, and but there are organizations that do, and we especially, I think, Lynette's, I'm blanking on the name, isn't that terrible?
Mark Jr. Foundation.
Mark
I should put it
Jr.
on my
Thank you.
name.
Woo, it came late. Mark Jr. Has a pretty quick application. Some of them are interesting in that they only do it on the 15th of the month, or and if it's the 16th, then you have to wait another. So we try to help, let you know which ones we do know about when their applications are. But Mark Jr. is pretty quick to respond with initial help. And there's many organizations that help with travel, lodging, food, car rental, that sort of thing. And I don't know, Lynette, if you want to speak more about that.
Oh, sure. And you're right. There are a ton of foundations. And, I want to thank Lisa, immensely, for one, just helping our chat groups grow in the manner that they have, inviting doctors and even allowing us to present this program. And she's connected us with a lot of foundations that do help with travel. And so one of the goals that I'm working towards is just kind of providing a collaborative effort with all of these foundations so that they can fill out our application. And then we hopefully can send them to the appropriate resources, because there's foundations that maybe only help families in Illinois, that will only help families in Iowa. And once we see that we have a family in Iowa, we can immediately reach out to that foundation, and we've hopefully gained a relationship with them so that we can then hopefully get travel and housing. And, because the Ronald McDonald House obviously is a great resource, but it's sometimes used in to the max. And so then we hopefully have resources on the other end that can offer discounted rates at hotels. And then we can then reach out to foundations and hopefully get the financial assistance that they need. And we've been able to help families with like airfare, discounted hotels. And then even from there, we're able to get them gift cards for Ubers and food. and, you know, discounted rates on rental cars. So we're really trying to kind of bring all of these foundations together so that we hopefully have a nice package group. We're working with Super Sands and they're awesome. The Children's Brain Tumor Foundation, they offer care packages. So when we have a family going to a hotel or an Airbnb, hopefully their care package is there waiting for them. So those are some of the things we're working on this year. So thanks, Leslie, for letting me have that moment.
So tumor donation, I would send them to Lisa. I'm not really. We do have a link for gift from a child on our website, but
I can speak to that. So
yeah.
Gift from a Child, they're doing a great job. That's connected with the Swifty Foundation, but just like this, they wanted to brand it in a way that anybody could be a part of it. So what they have are tissue navigators. So those are folks that are set up with the various centers that can take tissue and use it, create cell lines, etc. It's something we don't want to think about. But what I've learned is if you're never presented the opportunity, you might regret that later. This allows you to think about it ahead of time. And what they do is they have families that have gone through this before that are there to listen, to answer questions. If you want to talk mom to mom, dad to dad with someone, and they're very informed. And then if you decide this is something we want to do, then that tissue navigator makes every single arrangement for you in advance. So whether your child might be in a situation where they pass at home or at the hospital, the arrangements are in place because not every hospital is suited for that. And of course, if it's at home, those arrangements need to be made ahead of time. But it's very easy. They take care of everything. There's not a cost involved. And I'd be happy to visit with anybody personally if ever that is a necessity. Anybody have questions?
What's the best way to find the Navigator? Like via email, or like how are you guys, what resources are you guys using to kind of, when families are diagnosed initially, are you guys using social workers or the web, or what's the best way to connect them to you guys?
Well, the best way I think is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Anne, is my dipgnavigator.org. And then there's the buttons are all over the website on the different pages that says get help now. And that takes you to that form that you fill out. Just it's 4 questions, you know, your name, email, phone number, child's name, 5 questions in your state. So that's the best way, is mydipgnavigator.org.
I just wanted to say, in Nebraska, the main doctor in Omaha, she just basically finds one trial and pretty much sends all the kids to that same trial. And so what I found is other parents will say, hey, there's a new DIPG diagnosis. Would you talk to them? And then when I talk to them, I tell them, you know, there's multiple trials. And it seems like a lot of kids in Nebraska are not aware of that. And so immediately when I found out about this program, I sent all the information over to the social worker, who's the one who pretty much spreads the word about it, because it seems like, and I don't know if it's like that in other states as well, but it seems to be that in Nebraska, the doctor will just find one trial and pretty much send all the kids there to that same trial. And, you know, when you get this diagnosis, you don't really know exactly what to do or where to go, or you are in such a whirlwind, you don't really know anything. And so I feel like, you know, a lot of it is a word of mouth and just, you know, trying to spread the word and talk to social workers and other parents, telling other parents about it, because it seems like there's just a lot of doctors that are just set on well, this is the prognosis and there's just one trial, you know, best of luck to you.
I think that's a great idea, Jessica, and I think we have pamphlets and that could be given to some of you if you want them, and you could take them to the social workers at your hospital so that they have,
Not quite yet. Not quite yet, but we will.
We
So-
will. Oh, okay.
So we
It's
have
in the
the-
works. It's in the works. How's that?
We have the digital brochure. The link is in the chat. That's the best thing, to email that to any social workers you're working with or any of the institutions that you're working with. That's the best thing, or just the direct link to the website. But we will be driving toward having some physical pieces by September. We'll be at Cure Fest. And I mean, this is going to take time to get the word to spread, but trust me, we have every intention of getting this information to every nook and cranny that we can possibly get to, because Chase's vision, we go back to where this whole thing started, is to make sure everybody, regardless of where you are or what language you speak, has equal access to the best information, so that you can always feel like you had every piece of information that you could have had along the way. So give us some time, help us as you can. And for those of you in this situation that you can use our help, go to the website, fill out that little form, and you will hear from one of these wonderful people within 24 hours.
Yeah.
What would you say if we had a family that was being treated and they were being recommended for a clinical trial, and we recommended they reach out to your team, and maybe there was a little hesitation because they have what they feel is, you know, their care at their primary hospital, their home hospital? What would you suggest we do to encourage them to reach out to you guys?
I'll jump in real quick just to go back to those 3 pillars, right? Connection is one piece of what we're offering. The educate and the support are the other 2 pieces. So if they're feeling very confident in that connection piece, that's wonderful. But if they have a need to feel supported through dealing with side effects, dealing with the emotional toll on siblings, whatever it might be, our nurses can help in their area of expertise. And then the website has a long list of other organizations that are both financial support, but also emotional support. So it's about the whole piece of the journey. So it's, you know, if they feel like everything's covered, then that's great. And just know we're here if something changes. But if they feel like the medical piece is covered, but they're really still struggling and would just like an ear to talk to, or just somebody to bounce ideas off of, then, and again, I want to go back to, there's no obligation. There's no commitment. It's one phone call. And if it's helpful, great, have another. If it's not helpful, no problem. We're here. And if you'd like to come back to us later, that's fine too.
Right.
Yeah, I would just say on that. I mean, I think it's, for some people, this might not be a good fit, and that's fine. No judgment. Like, this definitely, the last hours felt like a sales pitch. I know, because we're so excited about it. And so we can't help but talk about that. But this is not, you know, if you don't feel like it's the right fit for you, and our family feels like it's not the right fit, that's fine. And you may change your mind a month from now. So, you know, I think it's not our goal to go out and sort of market it in a way to like the sales, put a hard sell on people if you really need this. We just want people to know it's here. And if it's a fit for you, that's great. And it might not be right now, and you might change your mind, because you might be happy, right? If you're in a clinical trial and it's the one you want to do, you might be happy now, but a couple months from now, if you start having questions of like, is this really still the best trial to be on, and you want somebody to talk to at that time, we just want to make sure everyone knows about it and can decide kind of if this is right for them.
Sometimes
we have
go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. We have a couple of patients, maybe more than a couple, that we've talked to either 1 or 2 times, and that's all they needed. You know, they were done, and that's, you know, we can kind of tell. We text and say, let us know if you need any help, and that's kind of you know, that's the end, and that's fine. I do think it was beneficial for these 2 or 3 families, and yeah, there's no obligation, and yeah, we're not trying to sell this. We only want to help when help's needed.
Sometimes parents, of course, make the decision that they don't want to do trials or they don't want to do radiation, and there's no judgment on that either.
Right.
I mean, it really is, you know, you're your child's best advocate, you know what's best for your child, and, you know, it's more of presenting the options. And
Right.
you know, I know for us, when Jace was diagnosed, certain trials were available. And then when ONC 201 didn't look like it was doing everything we needed to, we were so happy to know what other trials were available and be able to pivot, because we're always looking for that backup. But this will be a benefit, because not only will you be able to see, okay, these are the trials that are available and the nurses know it, but oftentimes they know what the status is, recruiting, eligible, there's a long list trying to get in. So you have that backup information. Or to Mark's point in the chat, if data has been released, they're staying up to date on that, and they can point you to those articles. And even if it hasn't been released or published, sometimes we have doctors that will just touch base and say, you know, we've treated 10 patients and it's really going pretty well. We haven't published yet, but here are some things we're seeing. And they're not ready to tell the whole world, but they're absolutely ready to tell those that are working with new patients. I'm really pleased with how excited the doctors are. And the nurses are not referring to just 1 or 5 or 10 centers. They truly, since Leslie's been on board and November for the others that we've been working through, I mean, it's a lot of different centers, right? And there's even centers, Florida, I can think of, that has been, you know, referring patients to this, because they don't always know what the most up-to-date information on trials are. And so, you know, they were so happy when we visited with them in January to be able to send patients here to get the most up-to-date information. So that's what I think the team's trying to do as much as possible.
What I love about learning about this, so I'm Regina Karchner, social worker at Children's Brain Tumor Foundation, and I think every time a family calls us, you know, every week with DIPG or DMG, the first thing is often wanting to connect with another parent who's been there. And it's, you know, it's so difficult because everybody's case is different, right? And we know that the trials have changed and there's a lot of bereaved families, and you know, it's not a medical professional. And I think in a lot of ways, families want the comfort of talking to another mom, dad, grandparent who's been there. But so much of it is like wanting as much medical information as they can have in those first couple of days, first couple of months. And it's so nice to hear that you guys can spend an hour with a family, because I think that's something that the team can't provide in the hospital. I was a hospital social worker. I know even the social workers can't. So, you know, and I think that brings up a lot for the team, because they feel guilty. So to have someone who can be with the family as long as possible, there is so much hope there, and education. And I think just the families feeling like, you know, all the boxes are getting checked, right? And somebody's being thorough who has no investment or bias.
Yeah.
You know, and then there's, you know, the emotional support, which is, you know, I think what this group and the others we all have are for. Yeah.
Yeah, and to your point about wanting to talk with other families, I can tell you that there are 2 or 3 like parent chats, private parent chats, honestly, that I just started along the way, because there was a lot of texting to keep up on. And then in the first group, Jace became the last to pass. So that's definitely a bereaved parents chat. But I always felt like, oh, if I were newly diagnosed, I wouldn't necessarily want that. So, you know, we started another, and several of the ladies that are on now are part of that chat. They really are supportive of each other. So if anyone you're working with ever wants something like that, feel free to reach out. We can connect them and put them in. But it has been so rewarding to me as more and more of that group have worked with Leslie and the team, that they're constantly in the chat saying, Leslie's so helpful, or Ashley's so helpful, or we worked with Lauren yet. I mean, everything's been super positive, which just makes me so happy and so proud of Chad Tough Defeat DIPG, of really building it out right.
Well, I don't know if there's any other questions, but just you obviously know where to find us, and if you have ideas, send them our way.
Please do.
Yeah, no, I mean, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, the whole Chad Tough team. Thank you, the whole Navigator team. I mean, just as a parent who's lost a child to a DIPG, I know that this gives parents hope. And I know immediately after diagnosis, we are left with very little hope. And so just what you're bringing to the DIPG table is immensely needed. And we are so grateful and thankful for everything you guys have done and you're doing. And we can't thank you enough. This is, I think, a game changer. So thank you guys all so much.
Thanks again. Have a great night, everybody.
Good night, guys. See you next month.
Yeah.